all started when the great theories were forged. First was the
Hey there,
war.
Rock. Sorry to interrupt, but we're not going to do that skit finally. It's going to be a bit too much trouble and far too much cliche, so thanks you anyway. Welcome everyone to this new episode of the Count County. Now today, as you've read the title, we shall talk about the orcs. And I'm going to try to keep it somewhat concise. So, to make it a long story short, all the types of orcs, and I'll make a video on that one day, derive from Tolkien and the Tolkien orcs. As for them, where did they come from? Well, there have been plenty of theories that are really bad. And now, I shall discuss about everything that I've dug out in the following order. First, we're going to talk etymology. Then, we're going to talk about a certain aspect of one of the themes of the orcs. Then, I'm going to go over some details of the context in which they were written, about Tolkien's life, perceptions of things, and so on. And finally, with that perception, I'll then kind of explain one of the lines that have led to misconceptions, and then I shall go on and put everything together with all that is known to make you a nice little I'd say surprise, but not really if you've watched my previous videos, so let's start. So, for the etymology, the orcs come from the Anglo-Saxon word orc. Now, originally in the first stories, like the Hobbit, there was the word goblin, which comes from old poems, folk tales, and so on. But goblins was pretty much just a word, and beyond that and the fact of being nasty creatures, that's all that was given to the orcs, and then they went in their own direction. Now, the demon part goes more with them being evil and all, but another point that, and by the way, I say Anglo-Saxon word, but I should precise that it's mainly from 10th century Anglo-Saxon versions of the language, which means that before that there have been a proto-language, and there might have been influences from the church that might have brought a few words, and that brings us to Orcus. Orcus is the name, as far as we know, of one of the Etruscan death god, which also was in the original Roman religion before Greek corruption, and therefore this god and also the name of his realm was Orcus, though some nuances and then certain things have some people doubt whether it was truly a god and not some demonic entity. It is possible that there have been evolution with time. Nonetheless, Orcus eventually gave the Italian orco, which means ogre, and of course the French ogre, which is the word on which ogre is stolen. And therefore, yes, the D&D god of the undead and Shrek have the same etymology, and it is possible that the orcs have too. Now, this is an uncertain part, but it is possible that the Anglo-Saxon for orc might have been eventually taken upon the Italian, or I should say Latin, Orcus. So Orcus in Latin, Christianization Adam, and then orc becomes a word. We cannot say for sure, but it is possible. What we know is just the old word for demon. For the thematic part, basically the orcs are the corrupt version of the elves, a mockery of the form of man. Well, first of all, you should know that orcs are overall just based on bad people who do evil. And also, for the idea of being a corruption, well, the orcs were bred by Morgoth. And you do have to know that back in Tolkien's time, Germany, England, the US, Canada were filled with eugenists that had a lot of really silly and highly racist pseudosciences and dubious ideas that all went to the eugenisms at the idea of superiority and of making better breeds with sterilization and whatnot. So of course, Tolkien, and there's plenty of evidence in his letters, despised that kind of ideologies. Those who had it, he called them unintelligent, vulgar. He called these theories unscientific. And of course, if you want an idea of the kind of nonsense, you can always go watch Django. And basically, Candy's speech and his thing about the skull and the crevasses, that's phrenology, and it's just one of the example of the nonsense that used to be believed by every moron next corner. And therefore, as evil cannot create, only corrupt, and with the orcs being bred by Morgoth, it comes, and of course this idea of breeding humans and whatnot were used by evil people, it comes to sense to see that indeed the orcs being a mockery of the form of man is mainly means that their origins in universe is inspired by eugenism and the pseudosciences it inspired. Now, before going even further, we have to talk a bit about Tolkien and the details of his life to better understand a few things. Now, Tolkien, even though he was born in South Africa, was mainly raised in England. He had German's great-grandparents, but was mostly English. He was Catholic. He subished religious oppression. The religious discrimination had a thing to play in his mother's death. He had several trouble with that, and he had to endure the horrors of World War I against his will. He was, like many English people, he was coerced into serving, and then he knew the trench war. And even back then, he knew that it was for pretty much nothing, and afterward, he said such things as the Austrian Pierre Elliott Trudeau, that compared to him, the Kaiser was an old grandma knitting, that would have been a better soldier at 49 years in World War II than in World War I, because he had a grudge against the National Socialists and their aberrant ideas. And of course, I mean, them he called vulgar, unintelligent, and so on. He had no respect for them, and even wrote a letter in which he said that well, in fact, that letter was an answer to publishers to know if he was and he said that, as far as I know, I don't have any of them names a bunch of Indo-European people that they hated. Also says that as far as he knew, he don't have any Jewish blood, which is a shame since they're such a great and talented people. So middle finger, but and sending that middle finger was a bit more important to him than being published. And yet, we do know that even if he considers himself mainly English, he did not, in that same letter that did the middle finger, he also said that during the regrettable war, he still proudly kept his German last name during the war, which is a nod to the King of England changing his name to wage war. Of course, lots of horrors happened, but I'll have to come back to them in time. But yeah, he hated imperialism. One of his quotes is that had he been in in ancient Rome, he would have hated the empire, but be patriotic to Rome nonetheless. He would have preferred the Gauls to be free and Carthage to remain he'd have respect for it, and he would have supported that it not be destroyed. And of course, to that I should add all the numerous mentions in his letters. His son, he said that he said to his son, yeah, you're a bit amidst the Orokai. So all along his letters, we see that not only does he dislike imperialism, we see that he was well aware of what England did, and that for him, England was no better than the guys on the other side. Seriously, he said it was what happened to Germany was a great tragedy. He complained it was a sad thing that the virtues of the German be the things that have been used and abused by evil, dim-witted people for vile purposes. Of course, when BBC and other media went on doing some really vile publications, namely in one letter, I think it's 86, before that, the day before he sent it, or at least the day before he wrote it, and there was some periodic that just went, we should exterminate all Germans, and was like, what? This is exactly what they say. And comparing to the guys, in that time, from him, it does not have the same weight as nowadays from anonymous guy or his intellectual equivalent like Pierre Elliott. So there was a bit of that. We knew he had friends he befriended people from Ulster, namely one guy who used to be Protestant but went on Catholic team. And yes, he does say Ulster. He calls the things by their own name. And yes, for those who don't know, Ulster is the real name of what you call Northern Ireland. And we have all reasons to think he was sensitive to the plight of the Irish and would have agreed that they needed to have their own country, so a unified and free Ireland. And what does all of this mean? Me speaking of him calling the English as much as being orcs as anyone on the other side, having respect for Germans and so on. Well, you see, many of the racist accusations toward Tolkien come from this quote. And what is this quote? Well, it's in one of its letters when someone wanted to make the orcs birds, and it has been largely misinterpreted. Now people think it was about Asian stereotypes, even though it was not the type to generalize and not just have said Asian. In fact, it does not say Mongolian, but a degradation of the Mongol types, which is saying a lot, and of course being repulsive to Europeans, but being general to Europeans is a bit wide. And nonetheless, why the Mongols? Why not, for example, the Chinese Communist Party or the Japanese? Well, you see, and there's stresses there that he have been fully aware of that. During World War I, the one he served in, the Irish had an enrolling were pushed to enroll themselves, and one of the propaganda that which you can see now was calling the Germans Huns, and yet it was highly hypocritical from England, and England was they insulted the Germans, but they did the same and worse to the Irish and many other people. In fact, there is a few IRA songs that do describe the English as being the Huns or the Crown's Huns, and we have all the reason to think that he was aware and he would have agreed with the Irish. And what's to do with the Mongols? Well, in the mentality of the time, now it's different nowadays for historians, but in the general mindset of the time, Huns and Mongols were somewhat similar groups of nomadic horse people from far on the east that did conquering, plundering, destroyed a bunch of stuff. And they were in a similar spot in the mindset of the time, even if nowadays, one who's a bit informed would say they were completely different. And so, with the Huns and the Mongols being so similar, we quickly come to some conclusions. Well, more precisely, we start a reflection. And if they are if the Mongols are there for the Huns and the Huns are there for the English, then you start seeing other things such as the orcs using trench warfare in the Pelennor fields in the book. You have the orc food, which is so bad it turned Rodan sick, and the only other place was something like that was described were English rations. If you saw my episode on Euro Major, you'd be aware. England doing the very same things as the other bad guys, and in fact Germans having been spoken in more enduring terms in the letters than the English. Of course, the media doing the same things, all of the persecution, therefore having a religion whose sole pillar is hating the Catholic. We come close to the worship of Morgoth. And then all the little points there, after all, look at the Londonian smile. Is that not largely an appealing and repulsive to everyone? Yes, it is. The Orc Brew is basically tea. It's foul, yet it gives energy and warmth. And we can go on and on. Cirith-ungol, one of the three major tower things in Mordor. It's a tower that have exchanged hands. It has a few uses, namely taking care of prisoners. Then you have the Towers of the Thief / the Black Gate, which is this passing way with, once again, towers. Of course, the Black Gate, the thing in the Jackson movie is not so book accurate. Then you've got Barad-dûr, the center of power that is mainly known for its center of power, with its main piece being a tower with a circular object. In the book, it's a Palantir, which Sauron uses. And you see the point, there's a lot of little disseminated things that all alone by themselves means nothing. Oh, and not to forget, Gandalf is Ragnar Lodbrok's maternal grandfather. Gondor might as well be the Irish at that point, since they're fighting against oppression. Rohan, they're French. The House of Rohan is something that exists. In his letter, it says Brittany for Bretagne, which is the region where they come from. And he speaks highly of that house. So the Rohirrim are French. French, Celt, Vikings, all enemies of the Anglo-Saxons. So there's a lot of things together that alone mean nothing, but together you can say apart and you can draw lines, and you come to the conclusion that if there was one group that would be the orcs, if that would be inspired by one setting of people, it would be the English, and more precisely the Anglo-Saxon Anglicans that happen to be supremacists and be into all of the eugenic things. In conclusions, the orcs, their etymology come from Anglo-Saxon demons, with possibly influence via the Catholic Church from the Etruscan god of death. Their notion as a corruption of man and elves comes from them being inspired by eugenism and the vile pseudosciences. They are generally based on bad people of all sorts, but if there was one group, despite a few red herrings such as some physical descriptions inspired by the Mongols but not the Mongols themselves, despite these red herrings, it appears that if you put everything together, they are based, as I said, on the Anglo-Saxon Anglican supremacists that believe in eugenism and the likes. And on this, I shall bid you farewell with this new knowledge of where do the orcs comes from, how they were inspired, and with the idea that if orcs were to be accurate to the great visions in the movie, their uniform should look like... Oh, they got a brand new shiny helmet and a pair of kinky boots. They've got a lovely flak jacket and a lovely khaki suit. And when they go on night patrol, they hold each other's hand. They're the Orcish army and they're here to take your land.